Then on Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 4 matchup between the Texas Longhorns and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Huge matchup for both these teams coming up here in Week 4. You got Texas, who's ranked 22nd in the nation. They're 2-1 on the season so far. And the main reason why they're ranked is because of their impressive performance against Alabama a couple of weeks back. And they got their first road game of the season, their first conference game of the season coming up here in Week 4. And they're taking on Texas Tech, which is a team that's 2-1 on the season. They took a loss last week to NC State on the road, which was unfortunate for them. But Texas Tech is still a team that looks very much improved in comparison to the 2021 season. So definitely an intriguing matchup coming up here in Week 4. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Starting out with your team trends, Texas beat UTSA 41-20 in their Week 3 matchup, which overall, all things considered, was a pretty solid win for Texas. This is a team that actually they didn't play Quinn Ewers in Week 3 because of an injury, so they had Hudson Card starting at quarterback in that matchup, which he played decent. He got the team to win, and it looks like Quinn Ewers is potentially returning for this matchup. It's not official yet. This is being recorded on Wednesday, so we'll see how that ages as the week goes on, but it looks like he's going to be playing for Week 4, which would be huge for Texas. But they're 2-1. Texas Tech also 2-1. They lost to NC State, 16th ranked team in the nation, 14-27. So just kind of struggled on offense in that game, only scoring 14. And in the end, NC State is a pretty solid football team. So not a terrible loss, but in the end, I mean, that could have been a huge opportunity for Texas Tech, but they've got a chance at redemption coming up here in Week 4. Games be on Saturday, September 24th in Lubbock. So Red Raiders are the home team for this matchup. Spread's going Texas by 6.5. So Longhorns are favored in this matchup by about a touchdown. Over under 60. FPI is going Texas 80.5%. So the FPI is really going very heavy on Texas in this matchup. Series history, Texas leads at 54-17. Your win streak is Texas by 4. So Texas Tech hasn't beaten the Longhorns in a while, but in the last 10, Texas leads at 8-2. Your stat comparison for this one, Texas 37 points per game so far this season, 16 points allowed. They got 234 passers a game, 170 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 216 passing, 130 for rushing. So overall, I mean, this has been a team that's been pretty good on offense overall. Defensively, they have been extremely promising at times. I mean, if you look at the Alabama game, that's really where this defense shined, only allowing 20 points to a Crimson Tide team that, I mean, they've got just an excellent offense to say the least. Bryce Young, the amount of talent that's on that offense is pretty incredible. And Texas's defense, I mean, that's a huge thing in the Big 12, is having a strong defense, because it's a conference with a lot of high-powered offenses, and defensively, usually it's not quite as good. That's why we see so many shootouts in the Big 12, is because of that. And Texas's defense has shown a lot of promise so far this season, so that's huge. Texas Tech, 36 points per game, 22 points allowed, 373 passers a game, 101 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 211 for passing, 82 for rushing. So comparing the offenses, Texas is more of a balanced offense with passing and rushing, according to stats so far this season. Of course, they got Robinson, who is an outstanding running back, over 300 yards so far this season and 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Texas Tech is more of a passing offense. Donovan Smith, the quarterback, has thrown a few too many picks in the first 3 games, but he's definitely a quarterback that has got some talent. But defensively for Texas Tech, pretty good in the rush defense, and they're decent in the pass defense as well. But obviously, I mean, both teams, if you're looking at points, are pretty similar, but Texas Tech has a slightly worse defense. Your recent matchups, Texas beat UTSA 41-20, lost Alabama 19-20. I mean, they were so close to beating Alabama there. That could have been just a massive upset, massive win for Texas, and it's impressive in itself. I mean, Texas, they were ranked because of how impressive they were against Alabama. And so, I mean, an impressive loss is pretty rare like that, but for Texas, it was definitely impressive. And they beat Louisiana Monroe 52-10 back in Week 1. As for Texas Tech, lost NC State 14-27, beat Houston 33-30, and that was in double overtime. So that was a pretty insane finish there. Houston was ranked 25th at the time, and the Cougars just lost to Kansas this past weekend. Not saying that Kansas isn't a good team, but that just shows that Houston potentially isn't what we thought they'd be this season. And they beat Murray State 63-10 back in Week 1. Your key points for this one, both teams 2-1. Quinn Ewers looking to return for this matchup. Once again, not official quite yet, but we'll see how that ages. And my prediction is based on if Quinn Ewers plays for Texas this upcoming weekend. Robinson has had a significant role in this offense so far. Don't expect that to change as we move forward in this season. And this is the first road and conference game of the season for Texas. So this is where I think we're going to learn a decent amount about Texas in this matchup, and quite honestly about Texas Tech as well. I feel like Texas Tech is a team that's definitely got potential. I watched them a decent amount in that Houston game, and even though Donovan Smith has thrown 5 picks so far this season, which is definitely not ideal, I think this is a Texas Tech team that has definitely improved off of 2021, and they could get to a bowl game, maybe get 7-8 wins this season. It's still definitely within reach for this team. Stopping the run will be crucial for Texas Tech, especially if Hudson Card is starting at quarterback, because that means Robinson's going to have probably a heightened role. But Hudson Card is still a good quarterback. There's no doubt. I mean, this team has got Quinn Ewers and Hudson Card, 2 pretty great quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers just so happened to get the starting position over him, but we'll see how that once again ages with his injury in Ewers. But Texas Tech, if they win this game here, they go to 3-1. I mean, this is a team that could be a dark horse Big 12 contender. Not saying that they're going to be a team that's going to go on and outright win the Big 12, but this is a team that could cause some noise, maybe cause a couple of big upsets this season. It's definitely possible for Texas Tech. But that said, let's get to the prediction for Texas and Texas Tech coming up here in week 4. And in the end, I'm going to be going with Texas here. 34-27 is my predicted final score. I see this being a pretty close game, pretty back and forth. I think this is going to be one of the best games of the weekend, and I think Texas in the end pulls it out. It's going to be close. I really think both teams could easily win this game. I feel like the Longhorns here, they're a better team, a more consistent team as well, just the way Texas Tech looked against NC State. And they got to bounce back in a big way if they're going to beat Texas in this matchup. And Donovan Smith, can't be seeing turnovers out of him. That's going to be huge because, every turnover, that's a huge opportunity for Texas to put more points up on the board. And, Texas Tech's offense is good, but I just don't know that if this game went into a higher scoring situation that Texas Tech could hang on. But Texas, I'm going to go 34-27. I'll say 55% towards Texas. So I think this is a close game. I think this honestly could go either way. Texas is the more talented team. I will say that. I think that's pretty agreeable on both sides, but it's just a matter of which team executes better. And in the end, I see Texas being the better team in this matchup. Over under 60. I'll take the over for this matchup and Texas to cover in the end. If you're picking Texas Tech to win this game, though, I definitely take the under. I do think we see more of a lower scoring matchup if Texas Tech wins it. But if Texas wins, if you're picking the Longhorns, I would say picking the over is a pretty safe bet. And I do have Texas covering the spread in the end. It's 6.5 points for Texas right now. So we'll see if that changes over the course of the next couple of days. But for now, with how it is right now with the spread at 6.5 towards Texas, I'll take the Longhorns to cover the spread. But that said, that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.